idea of globalization. Globalization relies for the massive profit intake by these monopoly firms. Globalization relies on intellectual property rights. In other words, the entirety of Western capitalism has come to rely on its intellectual property superiority. That means its superiority of advanced technology, including not so advanced technology, like how to make a shoe, but generally advanced technology, particularly in computerization, in telecommunications, and so on. This is what they rely on for their economic superiority. It's a very important component of their gross domestic product. The firms of Silicon Valley and so on, like Alphabet, Google, Netflix, and so on. These companies are a large part of US gross domestic product. Last 2 years, the Chinese have both registered more patents in the World Intellectual Property Organization than any other country in the world. They, for the first time, registered more patents than the United States. And in the last 2 years, Chinese scientists have published more scientific articles in refereed scientific journals than academics from any other country in the world, including, of course, the United States. So for the first time, Chinese scientists and technologists are demonstrating a kind of independence and a kind of advance. This is a very serious thing that's been happening from China, and it's not looked at carefully enough. The United States is perfectly aware that if China, particularly in telecommunications, leaps over Western science and technology, Chinese firms, some of them government firms, will have 1 or 2 generations of advantage over the United States. And that is the reason why the United States government has gone so viciously against Huawei and ZTE, because they manufacture 5G. They manufacture, among other things, telecommunications tools. And they are manufacturing telecommunications tools that are light years ahead of what American companies and European companies are making, like Nokia. One of the reasons why American telecommunications companies haven't been able to make advances is when they deregulated telecommunications in the United States, telecommunications monopolies broke up, they began to compete with each other, and they began to cease to develop the next generation of technology. They were not investing enough money in science and tech, whereas the Chinese invested an enormous amount of money in science and tech. That's why the fault line, when you have an earthquake, 2 tectonic plates run, the fault line of this clash between the United States and China is in telecommunications, because there the Chinese are definitely ahead of the United States. But it's not just telecommunications, it's in robotics, it's in different kinds of new forms of energy, it's in mapping technology, the GPS technology, and so on. Chinese have made new and much more advanced forms of technological developments. Okay, so that's the part about globalization. Globalization weakened the West, ironically, in terms of science and technology, because the Chinese developed their own pathway after 1978 to develop a state interventionist form of advanced development that led to these growth areas for them. Okay.